Let us start in Florida. Here are the facts. A tractor-trailer was moving southbound on the Florida Turnpike. On paper, it was just another truck. Standard highway traffic. Nothing to see. But this load had already been marked. DEA out of West Palm Beach had pushed an alert. This was not luck. This was not a casual random stop. This was intelligence-driven. Florida Highway Patrol's Criminal Interdiction Unit moved in and executed the stop. That matters, because that unit is not ordinary patrol. That unit is trained to look for concealed compartments, false walls, welded traps, aftermarket voids built inside trucks to move product. When the troopers opened that rig, they did not just find a backpack sitting on the seat. They found an engineered hiding space built into the body of the truck, a smuggling cell. Inside that compartment, they pulled out duffel bags. Inside the duffel bags, brick after brick after brick. Cocaine, hard weight, not grams, not ounces. We are talking about approximately 173 kilograms. That is roughly 381 pounds of cocaine. The street value is estimated at around $17.3 million. $17.3 million in one rolling package on one state highway. Multiple suspects were detained on scene. One of them had already been deported from the United States before and still re-entered. Think about that. That means this was cartel-level logistics, not some local amateur stunt. The people organizing this pipeline are confident enough to send in a previously deported individual, which tells you they think volume and speed can outrun enforcement. The suspects were turned over into federal custody, not just local lockup. Federal custody means trafficking charges, conspiracy charges, importation charges, asset forfeiture, and long prison exposure. Federal custody also means phones get pulled apart, contacts get mapped, routes get analyzed, money trails get traced. This kind of highway raid is not just about seizing product. It is also how you start tearing up the network. Florida officials immediately came out and said what happened. They wanted people to see the bricks on the table. They wanted the public to hear that this was coordinated. Because the message is not just to residents. The message is to the cartels themselves. The message is, you are visible. We are tracking you. We are mapping your trucks. We are hitting you on the open road, in daylight, on a major artery, before this poison ever hits. Miami, Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville, any of it. They called that load poison. They said Florida is on the front line against transnational narcotics trafficking. And they are not exaggerating. If you do not understand how big a number 173 kilos is, here is the translation. That is a distributor-level loss. That is not a street bust. That is not a nightclub sting. That is a cartel financial amputation. Here is something most people do not say out loud. When you take that much cocaine off the road, you do not just remove drugs. You remove cash. That cocaine becomes cash. That cash is what fuels the next layer. Bribes, weapons, vehicles, stash houses, intimidation, debt collection, even political pressure. You do not just interrupt a drug sale. When you rip $17 million off a truck, you interrupt a miniature economy. And that economy is violent. When they lose that kind of money, someone somewhere has to answer for it. That means someone somewhere is going to try to recover, and recover fast, which usually means more aggression, more desperation, and more risk for everyone in the blast radius. That is the real weight of a seizure like this. It does not end in that parking lot. It shakes other cities. The state of Florida also said something else, and you need to listen to the wording. They said this bust proves that cooperation between state assets and federal assets is working. Florida Highway Patrol interdiction units and DEA special agents are acting as one machine when it matters. That means real-time information sharing. That means tactical stop authority. That means you can get a call from federal intel and put marked patrol units on a vehicle before it ever clears the county line. That is not normal traffic enforcement. That is counter-cartel operations running openly on American roads. Now, pause there. Hold that mental picture. Unmarked cars. Radio traffic. Interstate stop. Hidden trap compartment. Kilo bricks stacked on the asphalt. Suspects in cuffs. The whole thing looks like a textbook Law and Order moment. Like the state still has teeth. Like the system is still capable of using force to defend the public. Now, I am going to show you the other battlefield, where force is not loud and where the people moving in are not wearing masks and not getting tackled on the highway and not getting marched into federal custody and handcuffs, even though what they are doing touches every single person you know. We shift north. We shift into what looks boring. A power plant in the upper Midwest. Dams, transmission lines, land, mineral rights. A company called Minnesota Power that supplies electricity to roughly 150,000 people. On paper, this is a utility provider. In reality, this is survival. Heat in winter, water treatment, transportation systems, hospital equipment, life support machines for the elderly. The basic ability of a family to not freeze to death in February. That is what we are talking about here. Now, enter the asset players. BlackRock, Global Infrastructure Partners, Elite, Superior Water, Light, and Power. This is how the stack works. BlackRock acquired Global Infrastructure Partners. Global Infrastructure Partners is trying to buy Elite. Elite owns Minnesota Power. Minnesota Power owns the physical infrastructure, lines, substations, dams, generating stations, and land. Not just random land either. Land that includes mineral rights. Land that controls water flow. Land that sits on resources needed for modern industry. Batteries, energy storage, military components. All of that, all of it, is what keeps those 150,000 people alive in a northern climate. And this is where regular people started saying no. Locals are saying they do not want a giant asset manager to take direct control over the system that keeps them warm, keeps their water clean, and keeps their economy alive. One resident said something that is so human it should end the discussion, but it will not. He said, "I scattered my wife's ashes here. I do not want BlackRock to own it." Understand what that means. He is not yelling about politics. He is not playing Team Red or Team Blue. He is saying, this land is part of our lives, our grief, our memory, and we do not consent to having it folded into a spreadsheet for somebody's quarterly return. A state senator, Jen McKeown, stepped forward and made the real warning. She said utilities are regulated monopolies, because if power goes out, people die. You cannot just let random private equity buy them in secret like they buy an office building. There is supposed to be oversight. There is supposed to be a Public Utilities Commission. There is supposed to be a process where people can object. She also said something else. She said, BlackRock does not have to report to the public in the same way a traditional publicly traded utility does. That means less transparency, less visibility, less access to data, less ability for the public to even see what is happening to their rates, their maintenance schedules, their grid reliability. That is the quiet version of the same threat you saw on the highway. On the highway, the risk is narcotics moving in and destroying communities. In the utility fight, the risk is a private financial machine moving in and quietly gaining the ability to decide how much you pay to keep your heat on in January, or how quickly your town gets power restored after an ice storm, or whether your local workforce gets cut in half. Because a spreadsheet said labor costs are too high. Look at northern Michigan. A company called the Upper Peninsula Power Company got bought by private equity a few years back. What happened next? Bills went up. Then they went up again. Then the utility was sold to another private equity firm. Then bills went up again. 4 separate hikes under that model. When regular people said we cannot afford this, the answer was basically too bad. Because that is what happens when essential services get turned into extraction engines. Your electric bill stops being about maintaining lines and starts being about feeding a debt instrument. This is the playbook. It is simple. An asset manager or private equity vehicle takes control of a critical service. They usually do it with leveraged money. So, the purchase is loaded with debt from the start. Then they squeeze. They cut maintenance. They cut staff. They slow upgrades. They delay repairs. They push rates up. Then, after a few years of milking those payments, they flip the whole thing and sell it to another fund. They walk with profit. The debt and the weakened system stay behind. You keep paying. And if something collapses, they are already gone. Now, hear this part very clearly. This is not just about money. This is about leverage and choke points. BlackRock is not just interested in power companies. because power companies make money. They are interested because whoever controls generation and transmission controls data centers. Data centers are the new weapons platforms. You have heard the noise. Artificial intelligence, massive compute, training models, endless racks of servers. All of that consumes unbelievable amounts of electricity. We are talking about loads that rival entire towns. Whoever can guarantee uninterrupted high-capacity power to those sites wins. Wins money, wins influence, wins bargaining power, wins leverage over governments, wins access to information flows. So when you hear a BlackRock level figure talk about the last mile, and say we need the power line that runs from the energy source to the energy user, understand what that means. The last mile is not just a wire. The last mile is control. If a private asset manager owns that last mile, they can shape who gets capacity and who does not, which systems get built and which do not, which industries get favored access and which are starved out, which towns get modern infrastructure and which towns are left with failure-prone junk from the 1970s. They can decide how much you pay to boil water or run insulin refrigeration for your kid, and they can do all of that without ever firing a shot. Now, go back to Florida. That truck rolling southbound on the turnpike, with over 170 kilos of cocaine hidden in a specially built trap. That is an attempt to invade and profit from your community's weakness. It is a bet that nobody will stop it. It is a bet that the system is asleep. Florida Highway Patrol and DEA proved, at least in that moment, that the system was not asleep. They did not just take product. They took money off the board. $17.3 million worth. That hurts. That slows distribution. That destabilizes cartel accounting. That forces them to rethink routes and personnel. Now go back north. Minnesota, Wisconsin, superior water, light, and power, dams, mineral rights, transmission corridors, public utility commissions made of 5 appointed people, final hearings scheduled, votes planned. That is also an invasion attempt. It just wears a tie. It is a test to see if a private capital structure can take possession of life support infrastructure for 150,000 people and convert it into a pipeline for profit extraction. It is a bet that nobody will stop it. It is a bet that the public will be too distracted, too numb, too tired, too broke to show up, too divided to form a wall, and too fatalistic to fight. In the North, communities are pushing back through hearings. They are documenting objections. They are warning regulators that this is not acceptable. Some local officials are openly exploring taking utility assets back into community control, buying them out, removing them from private equity hands, and building models where the primary objective is service and stability instead of extraction and flip. They are trying to stop the cycle where outside money buys your grid, bleeds it, sells it, and leaves you holding the corpse. In the South, interdiction teams are hitting transport chains fast, on the move, before distribution can happen. They are saying out loud, "We will not let you establish safe corridors through our state. We will not let bulk narcotics quietly ride our infrastructure at scale. We will not let cartel logistics behave like they own this highway.